Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
However, Angelia did not immediately emerge from the holy light. It seems that her path of evolution is not yet complete. Not long after, Lin Yu saw colorful flames emanating from Angelia's body again. Lin Yu's pupils contracted. He knew that this was the legendary divine fire. For ordinary beings who wanted to become immortal true gods, the first step was to ignite the divine fire. The divine fire began to burn from within. The power of the laws that demigod powerhouses mastered was the fuel for the divine fire. The more laws they mastered, the more fierce the divine fire burned and the stronger its power. Under the refining of the divine fire, the demigod's body would gradually transform into a divine body. Lifespan would increase and strength would skyrocket. Once successful, one could step into the peak of the demigod realm. The next step was to condense the divine nature. Peak demigod powerhouses needed to condense the laws within their bodies into a divine nature and derive divine power from it, in order to embark on the path of becoming a true god and possess eternal life. The first step of igniting the divine fire was actually the most difficult. If one failed, they would be burned to ashes by the divine fire. For those with less luck, they might not even be able to preserve their souls. Now, Angelia was undergoing this test. It can be seen. The colorful divine fire has completely enveloped Angelia's body. The reason why it is of various colors is because each color represents a law that Angelia has mastered. In fact, the number of laws Angelia has mastered is so numerous that it is impossible to count, possibly numbering in the hundreds. These laws have different colors. When combined, they are roughly colorful, emitting a dazzling and colorful light. Advertisement. Under the refining of the divine fire, the aura emanating from Angelia's body is becoming stronger and stronger. With so many laws burning together, the power of the divine fire is terrifying. Even a divine weapon could be burned to ashes. Lin Yu looked at the elegant figure in the divine fire. For some reason, he had no worries at all. If it were any other demigod, they would have been burned to ashes long ago. But the person who ignited the divine fire at this moment was his secretary, and instinctively, he was full of confidence in Angelia, believing that she could easily pass this test. It's unknown how much time passed. Finally, the momentum of the divine fire began to diminish. Eventually, it contracted back into Angelia's body. At the same time, a terrifying aura emanated from Angelia's body, several tens of times stronger than before. The feeling it gave Lin Yu was, Angelia has now become so powerful that she can easily slap to death the demigod peak rock demon who claims to be the god of this world. If Lin Yu achieved invincibility in this world by relying on the two divine weapons on his body, then Angelia has truly become invincible through her own power. Lin Yu has never seen the Elf Queen and Dragon Emperor, but he believes, even if the Elf Queen and Dragon Emperor were combined, they would still not be a match for Angelia. After a few more minutes passed, the four corners of the world suddenly trembled without warning. Then, thick purple thunderbolts appeared out of nowhere and struck Angelia directly. As the thunderbolts passed, it seemed as if the sky was being torn apart. Oh no, it wasn't just a semblance. It was really being torn apart. Lin Yu clearly saw that where the purple thunderbolts passed, black cracks appeared, revealing a void of black space behind them. It made Lin Yu feel as if the world was about to collapse. Advertisement. 49 consecutive purple thunderbolts struck Angelia. Secretary and suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were pure golden orbs, giving off an incredibly noble feeling. As Angelia opened her eyes, the purple thunderbolts in the sky instantly disappeared, and the torn sky returned to normal in the blink of an eye. It was as if the scene just now was an illusion. My lord. Seeing Lin Yu, Angelia immediately flew over. The angel wings on her back had turned into 6 pairs. 3 pairs were solid white angel wings, and the other 3 pairs were dazzling light feathers. 12-winged angel, Angelia? Looking at the increasingly elegant and beautiful secretarian in front of him, Lin Yu also showed a brilliant smile and said, "Congratulations on your promotion to 12-winged and reaching the peak of demigod level." Before Angelia could speak, Lin Yu asked again, "What was the deal with those purple thunderbolts just now? Does it mean that after successfully crossing the divine fire tribulation, you have to go through a thunder tribulation as well?" "No, my lord." Angelia shook her head and said, "There is no thunder tribulation for becoming a god. Those purple thunderbolts were a reminder from the world's rules on this floating island." "A reminder?" Lin Yu asked in confusion. "A reminder for what?" Angelia said, "Reporting to my lord, after igniting the divine fire just now, I was ready to make a breakthrough and attempt to condense my divine form. As a result, it caused dimensional and temporal fluctuations, and the world's rules couldn't bear it, so they used thunderbolts to remind me." She remained calm and didn't think much of it, just a little regretful. The rules of this broken world are too weak. If she were a bit more serious, this world wouldn't be able to withstand it. If it were on the myriad world's battlefield, she would have become a god directly without any worries. Upon hearing Secretary An's words, Lin Yu remained silent for a long time. Finally, with a twitching expression, he uttered 3 words, "What a pity." Lin Yu didn't expect it. Just now, the world rules of the floating island experienced a great calamity. It almost went cold. 49 thunderbolts descended one after another, reminding his secretary not to act impulsively. All because Angelia's strength was too strong, burning hundreds of different rule powers to ascend to the peak of demigod. Once Secretarian becomes a god, the true god of the same level will definitely not be her opponent. Similarly, the world rules of this floating island cannot withstand such a powerful creature ascending to godhood on its territory, and can only remind Angelia again and again. Lin Yu had reason to suspect the world rules of the floating island are probably sweating right now. At this moment, Angelia suddenly said, "My lord, I just communicated with the world rules of the floating island and learned that there are a total of 13 floating islands connected to the blue star. Those 13 floating islands are much smaller and the power of the world rules is not strong. But if we can occupy all those floating islands, including the integrated Union floating island we are currently on, then the new world rules can bear the arrival of the true god." Her words paused slightly. Angelia continued, "After you occupy this floating island, we can formulate 2 plans. On one hand, dispatch elite troops to the myriad world's battlefield, and on the other hand, start capturing the other floating islands. At that time, these floating islands will be integrated. Your followers don't need to enter the myriad world's battlefield to directly become gods. Except for this point. The purpose of Angelia's plan to capture those floating islands is also to see if there is a treasure hidden by the world rules of the myriad world's battlefield on the floating islands. She hasn't searched this floating island world yet, but that doesn't stop her from casting more nets. What if that treasure is hidden in one of those floating islands? Advertisement. It can be hidden by the world rules of the myriad world's battlefield itself, and it is also related to the holy demon war tens of millions of years ago. It is believed that this treasure must be very important and extremely powerful. It might even rival the super divine weapon origin scepter in the hands of the Lord of Holy Light. Treasures like this are not something that the supreme gods of the myriad world's battlefield can control. Only her master is qualified to possess it. Your plan is very good." Lin Yu nodded in agreement. For him now, the floating island is equivalent to a beginner's welfare village. The resources there are quite abundant. If he can control the other 13 floating islands, his power and strength will definitely increase many times over. Just as Angelia said, after he captures the floating island in front of him, he can dispatch the main army to the myriad world's battlefield while sending the secondary legion to capture those floating islands, continuing to develop rapidly. In this way, not only can we achieve 2 goals at once, but also avoid any delays. At the same time, in the sacred land of elves in the far east, a beautiful elf wearing a golden gown and a delicate crown appeared under a nearly kilometer-high mother tree of the elves, with a hint of seriousness in her expression. "Your Majesty, I have sensed the disturbance of the laws of the world." It is more intense than any previous disturbance, almost reaching the point of collapse. Does this herald the arrival of a doomsday catastrophe? On the main trunk of the mother tree, a wrinkled face appeared and said, "Your Majesty, there is no need to worry. The origin of the laws of the world has already returned to calm. Just now, someone was attempting to break through to the realm of the true God." Upon hearing this, the golden pupils of the elf queen slightly contracted. Advertisement. Incredibly surprised, she said, "Has that demigod gone mad? It is well known that the laws of this world are extremely fragile and cannot withstand the appearance of a true god. How could he delude himself into becoming a god?" "So, he failed," the mother tree said. "Most likely, he suffered the backlash of the world rules, just like all those ambitious geniuses before him. Even if he didn't die, he must have been seriously injured." The elf queen frowned and said, "I just don't know who exactly was attempting to break through to the realm of the true god. The Dragon Emperor? Or the Beast Emperor of Runkle Prairie? Or someone else? It is impossible to predict." After a moment of silence, the mother tree said, "Your Majesty, you don't need to concern yourself with this matter. You should contact the Pope of the Holy See and put an end to the war happening in the land of abundance. Our enemies are those professionals from another world. The civil war in the land of abundance will only give those professionals from another world an opportunity." The elf queen shook her head and said, "I can't contact the Pope of the Holy See anymore. My intuition tells me that he has most likely fallen, and this is very likely the direct cause of the outbreak of war in the land of abundance." The mother tree remained silent. The Pope of the Holy See, the leader of the Holy See, actually died? This is simply a joke. Under generations of inheritance, the popes of the Holy See rarely died prematurely. They all entered the myriad world's battlefield and became immortal gods of light. The Pope of the Holy See of this generation died under suspicious circumstances. The mother tree said, "Your Majesty, you can send someone to the land of abundance to investigate the cause of the Pope of the Holy See's death." The elf queen was about to do just that, and she said, "I plan to send someone to Dark Forest to summon the elves led by Queen Brianna back to the sacred land. The world is currently facing an invasion from external enemies, and the development speed of Paradise Town is astonishing. I am a bit worried." "Your Majesty is wise." The mother tree praised and agreed. However, they didn't know. They were already too late. By the time the elf queen's people arrived in Dark Forest, Lin Yu might have already established his kingdom there. Late at night, in Paradise Town, a piercing scream suddenly resounded. The sound was filled with pain and despair. It was the wailing of the Lich King. Under Lin Yu's power of creation and the burning of his faith, the Lich's body turned into ashes, and even its soul was extinguished. And this was the Lich King's third experience of death, but it itself was unaware. Its thoughts only lingered on its last death, filled with unwillingness and regret. If it had known that surrendering would lead to death, it should have fought one more time. Even dying on the battlefield would be better than being purified to death by the power of holiness and light. After all, this was an extremely painful process for it. Another failure. Lin Yu sighed. Transforming the Lich into a creature of light was indeed a very difficult task. The difficulty far surpassed that of transforming the bone dragon, Oster. However, Lin Yu had no disappointment at all. Instead, his face was filled with a smile. Because every experience of failure benefited him greatly. Whether it was the understanding of the power of creation and faith, or the comprehension of the laws of time, as well as the laws of holiness and light, they all became deeper. Continue. Lin Yu once again waved the origin scepter, the super divine weapon in his hand. Using the power of creation to create the laws of time, then reversing time, he resurrected the Lich King once again. "O great Lord of Holy Light, whether your transformation of me is successful or not, I am your most loyal servant." The Lich King devoutly knelt on the ground. It didn't know that it had died 3 times already. If it knew, it definitely wouldn't be able to say such words. Lin Yu had also heard it 3 times, so his expression was indifferent as he continued with his plan to transform the Lich King. Accompanied by the appearance of a mysterious power, the Lich King's body was enveloped in it, and the screams from the Lich King resounded once again. But this time, the Lich King's body did not vanish. Advertisement. On the contrary, just like the dragon of the sanctum, Oster, its body was undergoing a miraculous transformation under the influence of that mysterious power. Its soul, body, and mastery of the laws of necromancy were all transforming towards the realm of holiness and light. After about 10 minutes, the transformation was complete. The screams disappeared. The Lich King had also turned into a Lich of the Sanctum, radiating holy light all over its body. It sensed its own changes and was instantly shocked and delighted. Then it knelt before Lin Yu once again, fanatically saying, "Praise you, great Lord of holy light. Thank you for granting me a new life." This time, the kneeling was sincere, because in being transformed into a Lich of the Sanctum, it had become Lin Yu's fanatic believer. In the eyes of the Lich King, Lin Yu was its creator, the creator of its brand new life. Its faith in Lin Yu was unwavering, even in the face of death. On Lin Yu's side, his eyes were slightly closed. He was sensing the changes within his body. When the Lich King was successfully transformed, two different forces of law suddenly emerged within him, namely the Holy Law and the Law of Light. Just as Lin Yu had previously anticipated, he successfully comprehended and mastered these two forces of law. From then on, he no longer needed to burn the power of faith with the power of creation to create, but could directly utilize it. "I'm just a little short of comprehending the mysteries of the law of time." Lin Yu looked at the Lich King kneeling before him. He felt that he could give it another try. In one fell swoop, he comprehended the law of time. Thinking of this, he turned his head and glanced at Angelia standing silently by his side. Under the backdrop of the 12 wings of the angels, Secretary An was breathtakingly beautiful. Seeing Lin Yu's gaze, Angelia seemed to understand it instinctively. She stretched out her slender and fair little hand and slapped the Lich King to death. Until his death, the Lich King didn't know why. When he fell to the ground, his eyes were still wide open, as if he couldn't close them in death. Advertisement. It had to be admitted. Secretary An's power now was truly powerful to the point of being abnormal. After being transformed into a holy light Lich, not only did the Lich King's injuries completely heal, but his strength also increased. Although he didn't ascend to the peak of a demigod, he was much stronger than before. But in the end, he was still slapped to death by Secretary An. The feeling was as simple as slapping a fly to death. Lin Yu took a deep breath and once again waved the origin scepter. This time, he resurrected the Lich King who had been slapped to death, without the need for transformation. So he only needed to create the law of time to reverse time. Soon, the law of time appeared. Lin Yu immediately integrated his spiritual consciousness with the law of time, carefully comprehending the mysteries contained within the law of time. I don't know how long passed. Lin Yu suddenly smiled with joy. "I did it!" In an instant, time reversed. The Lich King was resurrected once again, returning to the moment before being slapped to death by Angelia, sensing the earth-shattering changes that had occurred to itself with a surprised expression. "Now I am even stronger than before. Indeed, the great Lord of Holy Light is omnipotent. Praise the Lord, praise the Holy Light." "Angelia," Lin Yu said to Secretary An beside him, "I'll leave the war outside the city to you. I'm going back to perfect the several forces of law I just mastered." "Yes, my lord." Angelia respectfully obeyed. The 12 wings behind her set off her elegant figure, shining brightly. Then, Lin Yu returned to the second floor of the Hall of the Overlord. It was almost dawn, and he was ready to get some sleep. So he summoned Radiant Saintess Tiffany. Soon, a journey of exploring the law of time and the Holy Maiden's forbidden ground began. The next day, before dawn, Lin Yu woke up. Radiant Saintess Tiffany was lying in the bedding next to him, sleeping soundly. Her delicate and radiant cheeks seemed to emit a faint glow, exuding a surprising charm. Lin Yu didn't wake her up. He took out a lost stone from his personal space equipment. Although he had only slept for 2 hours, Lin Yu was still full of energy. With his current strength, even if he worked continuously for 7 days and nights, he wouldn't feel tired. This is the power of a demigod, possessing an inhuman physique. By the way, Lin Yu's level has also been promoted. While studying the law of time with Radiant Saintess Tiffany, Lin Yu once again achieved a breakthrough in his level, advancing from demigod mid-stage to demigod late stage. As of now, the war outside the city has completely ended. The army of monsters in the western battlefield and the undead army in the northern battlefield have been completely wiped out by his Angel Legion and the Territorial Army. With the Warlock's Dominion Angel sealing the battlefield, it can be said that no enemy has escaped. Thus, all 4 forces of the Dark Forest have been wiped out by Lin Yu. Now there is no force that can stop the unification of Paradise Town in the Dark Forest. The next task for Paradise Town is to occupy the headquarters of Bone Temple, Elf Garden, and Naga Kingdom. Then, they will eliminate the local forces in the 3 regions. In the process, they will also clean up the remaining monsters in the wilderness. In this way, the Dark Forest will be completely conquered and brought under Lin Yu's control through Paradise Town. At that time, Lin Yu will be able to establish his kingdom with the Dark Forest as his territory. Of course, the premise is to obtain the blueprint for the Lord's Manor. Lin Yu plans to capture the headquarters of the 3 forces in the hope of destroying these transcendent level force bases and obtaining the blueprint for the Lord's Manor. With the Lord's Manor, his territory can be upgraded to city level. Then, he can meet the requirements to establish a kingdom. Advertisement. Lin Yu sat cross-legged on the bed and merged his spiritual consciousness into the Law Stone. Soon, he sensed the power of the law contained within it. It was the Law of Flames. This is a very common law. It is mainly used for attacks and is good at area damage. Previously, Lin Yu had exchanged a total of 20 Law Stones in the Glory item menu, each containing a different attribute of law power. But the specific law had to be confirmed by sensing it with his own spiritual consciousness. It's like opening a blind box. If you're lucky, you can get some rare law powers, such as space, time, fate, causality, and so on. If you're average, you'll get some more common laws, such as wind, flames, frost, earth, power, speed, and so on. But no matter what, it's always a cause for joy. Without thinking too much, Lin Yu immediately integrated his spiritual consciousness with the flame laws contained within the Law Stone, carefully comprehending the profound principles within. This process is akin to studying from a textbook. The speed at which he comprehends and masters the laws surpasses even Lin Yu's ability to create laws using the power of creation. This can be considered a shortcut for Saint rank peak professionals to ascend to demigod. The drawback, however, is that it is very difficult to obtain glory points. Although Lin Yu obtained a total of hundreds of thousands of glory points in the war against the Mountain Giant Kingdom, it should be noted that he is the only one among the millions of professionals on the floating island who can achieve this. Other professionals who can obtain glory points are mostly apex-level overlords or high-level overlords. And the amount of glory points they obtain is pitifully small, usually only a few hundred points. These glory points are not enough to exchange for a lost stone. In 2 more days, the glory items menu will refresh, and the exchange prices will skyrocket, making it even more difficult for professionals to obtain lost stones. The veteran professionals from a year ago. Advertisement. Various factors combined, resulting in none of them being able to ascend to demigod. From this, it can be seen that this shortcut is also very difficult to grasp. As time passes by, the profound principles of the flame laws surge into Lin Yu's sea of consciousness like a torrent. These are the profound principles that Lin Yu has mastered. For some reason, Lin Yu feels that his talent seems to be very strong. Although he is studying from a book, truly mastering the profound principles of the laws is not an easy task, much more difficult than calculus. However, Lin Yu inexplicably has a feeling. He seems to have a natural understanding and the ability to generalize. The obscure and difficult to understand profound principles of the laws can be easily comprehended and mastered by him. This is a very miraculous phenomenon. Lin Yu also can't understand it. Could it be that he is a natural genius? Or is he truly the creator worshipped by the angelic race? But he himself has no impression of it. Similar thoughts flash through Lin Yu's mind, but they quickly disappear, and he once again immerses himself in the comprehension of the profound principles of the flame laws. Gradually, it seems that flames are emanating from Lin Yu's body. The temperature in the bedroom also rises rapidly. Radiant Saintess Tiffany, who is wrapped in the blanket, is affected. She quickly wakes up from the heat, and her fair and delicate cheeks are covered in fine sweat. She holds the blanket, covering her delicate body. Only her smooth and round shoulders are exposed. She looks at Lin Yu, who is enveloped in ethereal flames, with a bewildered expression. For a long time, she is unable to speak. The scorching sun hung high in the sky. The elemental magic of fire between heaven and earth seemed to be drawn in, flowing into the second-floor bedroom of the Hall of the Overlord, converging within Lin Yu's body. Originally, Lin Yu's body already possessed the powers of holiness, light, thunder, and time. Different powers merging together should naturally result in conflicts of magic. However, this phenomenon did not occur within Lin Yu's body. Even with the massive influx of fire elemental magic, there was no conflict with the other powers within Lin Yu's body. This was because there was a power of creation governing over it. The power of creation surpassed any other power in the world, because it was the source of all power. The power of creation could create everything. Under the suppression of the power of creation, the various powers within Lin Yu's body existed in a very peaceful state, without any conflicts. It was like a group of children being disciplined by their mother. They dared not do anything out of line. And for Lin Yu, this was naturally a good thing. He didn't have to worry about how to make the different attributes of power within his body coexist peacefully. If it were someone else, without the suppression of the power of creation, the convergence of various powers within them would have likely caused major problems long ago. Of course, Secretarian was not included in this. So far, there was basically nothing that could trouble Angelia. As the fire elemental magic gathered more and more, a magical vortex had formed in the sky above the Hall of the Overlord. The overall appearance of the vortex was fiery red, resembling a slowly rotating supersized sea of fire, quite spectacular, and it could be seen clearly even from hundreds of kilometers away. At this moment, inside the bedroom, the red light on Lin Yu's body became even more intense, as if his whole person was enveloped in flames. The temperature was also terrifyingly high. Advertisement. Almost reaching the point of melting iron. Fortunately, the Hall of the Overlord was protected by the world's rules of the floating island. Otherwise, the entire Hall of the Overlord would have been burned to ashes by the red light on Lin Yu's body. Radiant Saintess Tiffany couldn't bear it either. She got up early, dressed, and left the bedroom. It was unknown how much time had passed. The fire elemental vortex above the Hall of the Overlord finally dissipated and returned to the heavens and earth. At the same time, the red light on Lin Yu's body disappeared. He opened his eyes, and within his pupils radiating a faint golden light, there was also a vortex spinning. However, this vortex was composed of multiple colors. Red represented the power of flames. Purple represented the power of thunder. White represented the power of light. And gold represented the power of holiness. Furthermore, there is another blank area, which is the territory of the power of time. Obviously, the vortex in Lin Yu's eyes is formed by the convergence of various rule powers he currently possesses. As Lin Yu comprehends and masters more rules, this vortex will continue to change. In addition, it is not actually located inside Lin Yu's pupils. Its position is in Lin Yu's lower abdomen and the sea of his spiritual consciousness. Up and down, reflecting each other. As for the vortex appearing in Lin Yu's eyes, it is only the projection and manifestation of them. Sure enough, after blinking a few times, the colorful vortex in Lin Yu's pupils disappeared. Only a faint golden light remained. Until now, Lin Yu still hasn't figured out why there is a faint golden light in his eyes, and even his pupils are gradually turning golden. If it continues to transform like this, perhaps in a short time, his two eyes will become golden. Lin Yu speculates that this mutation is related to the power of creation within him, because this change only started when he advanced to the saint rank and mastered the power of creation. Advertisement. At first, it was just a faint golden light. If you don't look carefully, you might not even see it. You would only feel that his eyes are very bright. But as Lin Yu's level increases and his mastery of the power of creation becomes more proficient, the golden light becomes more intense, and the color of his eyes begins to change. Sometimes, Lin Yu can even feel that his eyes are a bit itchy, as if something wants to come out from inside. He had Angelia check it, but she didn't find anything wrong. Lin Yu can only let the mutation continue. Regardless, one day the mystery hidden in his eyes will be revealed to him. But intuition tells Lin Yu, the change in his eyes is not bad. When the mutation is completely over, he may be in for a big surprise. I have now mastered 6 types of rule powers. They are thunder, strength, holy, light, time, and flame. My level has also reached demigod late stage. Lin Yu extends his right hand and clenches it in the air. The space in the palm of his hand immediately distorts, mixed with changes in the flow of time. He can feel that his power has increased to an astonishing level. Although it is not comparable to Secretarian of the same level, it is more than enough to deal with old-school demigods like the Lich King and Elf Queen. With the power of creation protecting me, the divine fire cannot extinguish my body. In other words, I can now ignite the divine fire and ascend to the peak of the demigod realm. However, this is not my limit. I need to master more rules. When the time comes to ignite the divine fire again, I will obtain a stronger divine body. Just like Angelia, burning hundreds of rules to ascend to the peak of the demigod, almost causing the world rules of the floating island to collapse, it is simply abnormal. Secretarian's current state is the goal that Lin Yu pursues. My lord. When Lin Yu arrived on the first floor of the Hall of the Overlord, Angelia had already been waiting for a long time. She did not go out hunting because hunting had become meaningless to her. Her level had reached the peak of this floating island world. Killing enemies no longer rewarded her with primal energy. Only by entering the myriad world's battlefield could she continue to level up in this way. So now, her daily task was to guard by Lin Yu's side, waiting for the angel army to conquer this world and open the passage to the myriad world's battlefield. Once in the myriad world's battlefield, she could directly become a god. At that time, it might even be possible for her to become a central throne true god, who holds a medium-level divine position. After all, she had ignited the divine fire with the power of hundreds of laws. This kind of power could be said to be terrifyingly strong. It was not something that a god who reincarnated and recultivated without being extremely powerful could possess. Why are you the only one here? Lin Yu's gaze swept over the mountains of spoils in the hall and fell on the beautiful and elegant Secretarian. Under the sunlight, the 12 wings behind Angelia radiated even more dazzling light, making her beauty suffocating. Apart from Angelia, the most beautiful angel Lin Yu had ever seen was the 10-winged seeker angel Sandy. Even among the vast angel army, 10-winged seeker angel Sandy was extremely eye-catching, especially her figure, which was exaggerated to the extreme. But when it came to overall appearance, temperament, and other aspects, 10-winged seeker angel Sandy couldn't compare to Angelia. In terms of temperament, Angelia had a firm grasp. When it came to the most beautiful angel, it had to be Secretarian. Advertisement. Facing Lin Yu's gaze, Angelia slightly lowered her head and respectfully said, "Reporting to my lord, the legions of the territory have used the teleportation array to go hunting. In addition, the Elf Queen and the Naga Queen have led their armies respectively to return to the Elf Garden and the Naga Kingdom to subdue the local forces in those areas. The Lich King is leading an angel army to the Bone Temple region. Unless something unexpected happens, in at most 2 days, we can clean up the local 4 strongholds in the Dark Forest. As for the monsters in the wilderness, we can slowly eliminate them later." Understood. Lin Yu nodded. Then he thought for a moment and said, "The rock demon that was summoned by the Lich King before seems to have escaped to the north. Let the angel army be cautious. That rock demon is still very powerful. Its level has reached the peak of demigod, and it even claims to be this god. I imagine it is a true god from the underworld. Enemies like this, even the Elf Queen and Dragon Emperor would not be a match for them in a one-on-one situation. My lord, there is no need to worry, Angelia said. Accompanying us to the Bone Temple is the city of Throne Angels, guarded by Vivian. That rock demon won't be able to cause much trouble. That's good, Lin Yu said, feeling relieved. Although Vivian was just an ethereal consciousness, under her control, the City of Angels could unleash a powerful force capable of slaying peak demigods. If the rock demon were unfortunate enough to encounter Vivian, it would most likely meet its demise. Yesterday, it managed to escape. But the next time they meet, the rock demon will undoubtedly die. However, what Lin Yu didn't know was that the rock demon had long been terrified by his army of angels and would not appear before him willingly. The rock demon now only wanted to leave this troubled place as soon as possible. It didn't even want to bother finding the corpse of the death god, Bacchus. In addition, Angelia informed Lin Yu that the demigods of the territory had already set out together to search for the rock demon's whereabouts. Advertisement. If they really find it, it will be in trouble. Lin Yu said, if we encounter that rock demon, don't rush to kill it. Find out what its purpose is for coming to this world. I suspect it's not just about finding the corpse of the death god. Understood, my lord, Angelia nodded. She also had this speculation. At the same time, Secretarian became concerned about the underworld behind the rock demon. Back then, the 4 18-winged Grand Archangels split the underworld in half. One half was brought back to the divine domain of the Lord to create hell, where fallen angels were exiled. The other half was left with the death gods to prevent interference with the cycle of life and death in the myriad worlds of the universe. But now the situation was different. The merciful and compassionate Lord of Holy Light had accepted those fallen angels, giving the fallen angel faction a chance to compete with their sacred angel faction for control of the divine domain. This was definitely not acceptable. Their sacred angels could not go against the divine oracle of the Lord, but they could think of other ways. For example, seizing the other half of the underworld and integrating it with the Hell-integrated union to recreate a complete underworld. At that time, let the fallen angel faction manage it. Weren't those fallen angels skilled in manipulating the souls of living beings? Making them the new era's death gods would be the most suitable. As for the original death gods of the underworld and the Death Emperor, if they refused to bow their heads, they would be directly eliminated. After much consideration, Secretarian felt that this plan was very feasible. It not only rid them of the threat from the fallen angel faction to their sacred angel faction, but also made perfect use of the fallen angels' expertise. Most importantly, with the fallen angels managing the underworld, they could quickly spread the glory of the Lord of Holy Light to the myriad worlds of the universe, along with their sacred angel faction. From the living to the dead, all would be ruled by the great Lord of Holy Light. By then, no matter what the Lord of Holy Light's plan was, it would be easier to achieve. In an unknown parallel dimension, floats a vast and boundless pitch-black world. This is the legendary underworld, the homeland of the deceased. The underworld is a very special world, connected to the myriad worlds of the universe and protected by the laws of the universe. Almost all living beings who die in any world, under normal circumstances, their souls will be drawn by the laws of the universe and enter the underworld, becoming underworld creatures. However, the number of underworld creatures is not as many as one might imagine. This is because the underworld also follows the cruel law of survival of the fittest and the rule of the strong. The vast majority of weak souls will be harvested by the Grim Reaper or become food for underworld giants. Only a very small number of souls can escape disaster and slowly grow. It can be said that the underworld is full of strong beings. At this moment, in the core of the underworld, there is an ancient and magnificent temple. On the throne inside the temple sits a figure wearing a black and gold robe. His appearance is that of an elderly human. He appears hunched, but exudes a terrifying divine aura. This is the aura of the Divine King. Only those who surpass the God Lord possess it. He is the ruler of the underworld, the underworld emperor. Suddenly, the old underworld emperor opens his eyes, revealing a pair of golden pupils, and mutters to himself, "Lorita, I sense an evil thought enveloping the underworld. Even I am implicated. I have peered into the river of time and space, but I have not found any anomalies. What is going on? I don't think this is just my imagination." When the underworld was invaded by the angelic race in the past, I had the same feeling. Speaking of this, the old underworld emperor suddenly trembles, his pupils shrinking slightly. "Lorita, could it be that the angelic race is plotting against our underworld again?" Advertisement. Shortly after he finishes speaking, a cold and ruthless female voice resounds in the temple. "Don't worry, my underworld emperor. The angelic race has already taken half of the underworld. They won't have any interest in the remaining half. After all, without the underworld, the cycle of life and death in the universe will collapse. In that situation, even the laws of the universe will not spare the angelic race, making those despicable angels enemies of the myriad worlds." Upon hearing this, the old underworld emperor breathes a sigh of relief. After a moment, his old face twitches a few times. As the ruler of the mighty underworld, with countless grim reapers under his command, he actually has to rely on the deterrence of the laws of the universe to prevent the remaining half of his stronghold from being taken by the angelic race again. When has he ever suffered such humiliation? However, when he thinks of the 4 18-winged grand archangels who led the angelic army into the underworld back then, he instinctively feels a tingling sensation on his scalp. If it weren't for his speed back then, the one who is now conversing with Lorita might be the new generation of the Emperor of the Underworld. Lorita is the spirit of the world's laws in the underworld, and after having half of her primal force taken away by the Angel clan, she was also severely injured. Until now, not only has she not recovered, but she has also been continuously weakening. If it weren't for the Angel clan, then where does the malice come from? The old emperor of the underworld frowned and said, "The supreme gods of the myriad worlds battlefield do not have the courage to target my underworld. Apart from the Angel clan, the only race in the entire universe that can threaten my underworld is the Void Demon race." Could it be? The Void Demon race, after their defeat back then, harbored resentment and is preparing to invade the myriad worlds battlefield? That possibility cannot be ruled out. A female voice in the void said, "This is good news for us. If the Void Demon race invades the myriad worlds battlefield, we can also send the underworld army to participate in the war and seize the primal force of the myriad worlds battlefield." The old emperor of the underworld nodded. Advertisement. He said to the spirit of the underworld's laws, whom he called Lorita, "I have already dispatched some gods of the underworld to many floating island worlds. They will find a way to enter the myriad worlds battlefield and build a large number of underworld passages. At that time, our army can enter. The only thing I am worried about now is whether the Angel clan, which has been missing for tens of millions of years, will reappear in the world. Those wicked angels are not friendly to the living beings of our underworld." In the heart of the old emperor of the underworld, angels, as sacred beings, are synonymous with wickedness. No other race can be more evil than angels. Even the Void Demon race cannot compare. After all, the Void Demon race did not cut his underworld in half back then and take away countless death gods and underworld giants under his command, causing a great decline in the strength of the underworld. It shouldn't happen. At least until the Lord of Holy Light returns, the Angel clan will not appear. The spirit of the underworld's laws said, "I heard a secret story in my early years. The reason why the Angel clan withdrew from the myriad worlds battlefield and sealed themselves in the divine domain of their Lord is because their Lord of Holy Light suddenly disappeared. As for why, no one knows." Hearing this, the old emperor of the underworld was suddenly shocked. At the same time, he was also delighted, unable to hide his joy. "I didn't expect the wicked Angel clan to have such a day. This is the best news I have received in tens of millions of years." Larita, you should have told me earlier. What's the use of telling you? The spirit of the underworld's laws said with a hint of disdain. Even if you knew that the Lord of Holy Light had disappeared, what could you do besides reveling in the misfortune of the underworld? Can you snatch back the other half of my body? That's going too far. The old emperor of the underworld felt an extraordinary sense of humiliation, but he had no words to respond. If he had the power comparable to the Lord of Holy Light, what would those 18-winged grand archangels amount to? However, that can only be wishful thinking. It is harder to take that step and surpass the supreme gods than to turn the world upside down. Paradise Town, Hall of the Overlord. Lin Yu is counting the spoils of last night's battle with Angelia. A massive amount of gold coins, tens of thousands of equipment, and stacks upon stacks of blueprints. The harvest is far greater than the war with the giant kingdom in the mountains. Besides these spoils of war, the biggest gain is the surrender of the local intelligent races. Among them are nature elves, tree people, unicorns, Naga, fish people, and so on, with a total number exceeding 2 million, and each one is an elite among elites. After all, those who can be called upon to participate in the war are not weak in strength. Those young elves, Naga, and others are still in the strongholds of the nature elves and Naga. One of the tasks for the Elf Queen and the Naga Queen to return to the Elf Garden and Naga Kingdom is to surrender all the remaining tribespeople. This is not a difficult task, because there are also a large number of Grand Angels and Seeker Angels who have mastered the divine arts of faith. Just gather those elves, Naga, and other intelligent beings together, and then use the set of divine arts of faith to handle them. As for the Bone Temple, there is no need to surrender the undead creatures there. Just as Lin Yu is counting the spoils of war, the chat channel on the island is also buzzing with discussions. Countless professionals have gathered here, including many Overlord professionals. They are all exploring the outcome of yesterday's war. They are eager to know which side ultimately won the war. This is very important to them. I can confirm that the victors of the war include 3 local transcendent level forces, including the Elf Garden. This morning, I saw a large number of nature elves, unicorns, and tree people gathering and returning to their strongholds. If Paradise Town won, this army of elves would not exist. Advertisement. That makes sense. I am in the southern region of the Dark Forest, and this morning I also saw armies of Naga and fish people, riding towering waves and returning to Naga Kingdom. So, Paradise Town really lost the war? Did Lin Yu also die? If that's true, it's really good news. Hey, you upstairs, I can only say you're celebrating too early. Regardless of whether Paradise Town lost or not, Lin Yu must not have died. How do you know? Because I am friends with Lin Yu. I sold him that blacksmith workshop blueprint back then, so I got a friend request. Up until now, Lin Yu's profile picture hasn't turned gray. Damn, that's awesome. Having Lin Yu as a friend? Paradise Town's rapid development owes a lot to you, kid. Even if Lin Yu is still alive, it doesn't matter. His territory has been destroyed, and he has lost his status as an overlord, forced to become a combat professional. A lone wolf poses little threat to us overlords. Are you confused upstairs? The world announcement has been made, and Lin Yu is now a demigod. With the power of a demigod, it's not easy to defeat the armies of the overlord profession, right? As soon as these words were spoken, there was silence in the chat channel. Many professionals now remember that Lin Yu is a demigod. In front of a demigod, even the current apex-level overlords have to bow their heads. In other words, even if Paradise Town is destroyed, Lin Yu is still a boss they need to look up to. How is this possible? At this moment, there was news in the channel. Don't talk nonsense. Paradise Town didn't lose at all. Our team saw an army of angels riding a throne angel city flying north towards the territory of the transcendent level force, Bone Temple, in the Dark Forest. How is that possible? If Paradise Town won, then what about the Elf Army and the Naga Army they saw before? Did they lose and run away? Advertisement. There's a possibility. But I prefer to believe that Elf Garden and Naga Kingdom surrendered. Those elves, Nagas, and even the fishmen have all become followers of Lin Yu. the boss. Don't forget, spreading faith is the specialty of the angel race. The chat channel fell silent again. The angel army did not perish, and the city of angels still exists. That can only mean one thing: Paradise Town really won. This is too unbelievable. After all, it was an attack by 3 transcendent level forces. And there were also a large number of magic beasts and countless wild monsters participating in the battle. There were several other strong demigods besides Lin Yu. With such a powerful war strength, it would have been easy to sweep away the tens of millions of professionals on the island. But in the end, it was defeated by Lin Yu alone. This made many professionals express their disbelief. But at the same time, there were also a large number of professionals cheering and expressing their excitement in the channel, saying they can finally relax. Most of them were professionals located in the Dark Forest. They were looking forward to becoming citizens under Lin Yu's rule after he establishes his kingdom. Sta Qingyue, the leader of the alliance Midsummer Night, was also one of them. When she heard the news of Paradise Town's victory, her expression became extremely complicated. But more than anything, she felt relieved. Now she doesn't have to think about it anymore. Just lie down and relax. Soon after, a large number of equipment, blueprints, and potions were listed by Lin Yu on the island's trading platform. This action further proves that Paradise Town has become the winner of this war. From this moment on, Lin Yu is the overlord of the Dark Forest. Elf Garden, Naga Kingdom, all conquered. The key is that there are so many girls, not only angels but also elves and Nagas. Envious of Lin Yu, the boss, when it was noon. Lin Yu's items on the shelves, apart from some blueprints, were all sold out. Among them were nearly 90,000 pieces of equipment of different grades, as well as over 10,000 bottles of middle-level and high-level potions. The potions were all prepared by the pharmacists of the Pharmacist Manor of the Radiant Church, and even the Grandmaster Alchemist, Danver, participated in the preparation of the potions. Although it was just a Pharmacist Manor, the quantity of potions produced exceeded Lin Yu's expectations and helped him earn approximately 600,000 gold coins. This could be considered a pleasant surprise. However, the real surprise was the nearly 90,000 pieces of equipment. Among them, 40,000 pieces of equipment were crafted by the 4 high-level blacksmith workshops, and they were all middle-level equipment ranging from level 4 to level 6, suitable for professionals at the current stage. The other nearly 50,000 pieces of equipment were spoils of war from the battlefield. A war yielded 50,000 pieces of equipment, which made Lin Yu somewhat incredulous. Previously, when his territory had just upgraded to Small Paradise Town and was attacked by the Undead Army and the Beast Tide, the total number of equipment obtained was only about 10,000. But this time, the quantity of equipment was 5 times that amount, making Lin Yu suspect whether the world rules of the floating island secretly increased the drop rate of equipment. Of course, this was also directly related to the larger scale of this war. Although the armies of the Elf Garden and the Naga Kingdom didn't suffer much loss, the undead army of the Bone Temple and the army of wild monsters were completely wiped out by Paradise Town. The total number of kills is at least over 60 million. In addition to a large number of equipment and blueprints being dropped, over 7 million gold coins were also dropped on the battlefield, which truly made Lin Yu earn a fortune. This time, from selling equipment and blueprints, Lin Yu gained over 25 million gold coins. Adding up all the gold coins, Lin Yu now has a total of nearly 33 million gold coins. This astonishing gain made Lin Yu gasp in disbelief. He had anticipated becoming rich overnight through this war, but he didn't expect to become so wealthy. According to the summoning prices provided by Myriad World's floating island, a large-scale angel legion, consisting of 51,111 angels in total, led by a 10-winged angel, supported by 10 8-winged angels, and with 106 winged angels serving as the commanders of each small corps. The total summoning price is 2,870,000 gold coins. In other words, advertisement. With the 3,300,000 gold coins that Lin Yu currently possesses, he can directly summon 11 large-scale angel legions, with a total of over 560,000 angels. It's worth noting that, up until now, the total number of angels under Lin Yu's command is only 400,000. Summoning over 560,000 angels at once is simply insane. And Lin Yu's goal of 1 million angel army, which he has been pursuing, has been instantly achieved. 1 million angel army. The city of the 4 throne angels. In addition, there are millions of elite troops from various ethnic groups. They can easily sweep across the neighboring Runkle Prairie. Conquering Runkle Prairie is Lin Yu's next war plan. Furthermore, his subordinate, the City of Angels, has reached 4 cities as of last night. Early this morning, Coral, leading a group of artisan angels, started building new City of Angels again, and the number is even greater. They are simultaneously constructing 10 City of Angels. The projected completion time is 3 days. If they can summon more artisan angels this time, the construction time will be shortened. Based on the current situation, Lin Yu no longer needs to consider whether he can conquer this floating island. Neither the local forces nor the professional forces are his opponents. What Lin Yu needs to consider now is how to quickly seize the position of Island Lord, become the ruler of this floating island world, and then enter the myriad worlds battlefield. No hesitation. Lin Yu immediately communicated with the myriad worlds floating island and opened the summoning black hole. Soon, the black hole appeared. Advertisement. It was like opening a portal in space and time, leading to the divine domain of the supreme angels. Before long, dense starlight appeared in the black hole, representing the golden light of the holy angels and the blood light representing the fallen angels. The ratio is still 2 to 1. From this, it can be seen that the power of the holy angel camp is stronger. After a while, groups of angels flew out of the black hole, quickly crowding the first floor of the Hall of the Overlord. The angels summoned first could only choose to leave the Hall of the Overlord and gather on the outside square. Their eyes transmigrated to the hall's entrance, staring fanatically at the handsome and supreme figure. As time passed, the square of the territory was also filled with angels. With a scale of tens of thousands, each small angel legion formed an array. Solemn and orderly, it looked extremely awe-inspiring. After all the holy angels were summoned, the fallen angel legion made their appearance. When the fallen angels descended, the entire hall was instantly filled with the aura of the divine and the infernal. The two forces presented themselves in a state of opposition. As the summoning came to an end, a large number of high-ranking fallen angels flew out together, each dragging thick chains in their hands, and at the end of the chains were large Cerberus. But at this moment, Angelia, standing quietly beside Lin Yu, suddenly changed her expression. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a dangerous glimmer. It seems she has discovered something. Soon, the black hole suspended in the air in the hall disappeared. Over 500,000 sacred angels and fallen angels were all summoned. At this point, Lin Yu's million angel army had truly achieved its goal. In addition to the 4 City of Angels, just this force alone was enough to give Lin Yu the confidence to sweep the entire floating island world, and capturing the sacred land of elves and the 36 Bay Islands would not be too difficult. Not to mention that he also had millions of elite troops from various races. However, Rome wasn't built in a day. After all, his power was not yet strong enough to engage in multi-zone warfare. Of course, this was only for now. Maybe when Lin Yu captures Runkle Prairie, he will have a 10 million strong angel army. By then, he will be able to engage in two-way or even multi-way battles with the sacred land of elves and the 36 Bay Islands, and directly sweep the world with a war. This summoning, a total of 27 Angel of Retribution, 43 Angel of Love, 35 Artisan Angel, and 10 War Angel appeared. The probability has also increased significantly. Lin Yu didn't find it strange, because it was explained in the exclusive unit summoning information in the Hall of the Overlord. Raising the level of the territory not only unlocks the summoning privileges of higher-ranking angels, but also increases the probability of summoning special angels. His territory has now been upgraded to a high-level town, and it was a one-time summoning of 11 large-scale angel legions. It was normal for a large number of special angels to appear. Furthermore, there are 11 ten-winged angels. Among them, 7 are sacred angels and 4 are fallen angels. All of them have reached the peak of the saint rank, and their growth potential is all at the peak of the superior throne god, just one step away from the Godlord. Advertisement. Godlord, also known as the Lord of the Gods. Countless gods are under their command. Even on the myriad worlds battlefield, the Godlord is a very powerful existence. The growth potential of a 12-winged angel is at the level of a Godlord. For example, Angelia at this moment, after evolving into a 12-winged angel, her growth potential has reached the peak of the inferior throne Godlord. The Godlord is the same as a normal true god. It is divided into lower, middle, and upper ranks. The difference is that the rank of a normal true god is determined by divine power. An inferior throne true god wields weak divine power. A central throne true god wields moderate divine power. A supreme throne true god wields powerful divine power. On the other hand, regardless of rank, a godlord wields great divine power. The rank of a godlord is determined by the number of gods under their command. Having 3 divine lineages makes one an inferior throne godlord. Having 6 divine lineages makes one a central throne godlord. Having 9 divine lineages makes one a supreme throne godlord. This is similar to the commonly known 3, 6, 9 ranks. Lin Yu didn't bother to give names to the 7 10-winged sacred angels. They can solve the naming issue themselves. After all, he doesn't have many in stock. When the territory is upgraded to a city and he can summon 12-winged angels, he will choose names for the first batch of summoned 12-winged angels. As they say, first come, first served. As for the naming of the 4 10-winged fallen angels, he doesn't need to worry about it at all. Advertisement. These high-ranking fallen angels come with their own names. Because they are old angels, they are different from the newly born sacred angels from the angel reincarnation pool. For example, these 4 10-winged fallen angels, when they were in hell, they were all supreme throne true gods with powerful divine power. Now that they have been summoned by Lin Yu, their ranks have dropped to the peak of the saint rank. This can also be considered a great sacrifice. Lin Yu was also very moved by this and decided to give these fallen angels a better future. At least they shouldn't stay in hell anymore. They deserve better benefits and treatment. But Lin Yu hasn't figured out how to do it yet. When he becomes stronger in the future, or when he truly becomes the creator, this problem should be easily solved. While contemplating this issue, Lin Yu was unaware that his secretarian was also finding a new home for the fallen angel camp. But compared to him, Secretary An's plan was much simpler and more direct. Praise you, great Lord of holy light, Creator. Inside the hall of the Overlord, countless angels bowed respectfully to Lin Yu. These angels all had devout expressions and fervent gazes. At the same time, whether they were from the sacred camp or the fallen camp, they were all high-ranking angels, totaling over 5,000. Just these high-ranking angels present were already a very powerful force. Once they mature, they will be even more formidable. Please rise. Lin Yu raised his hand. A brilliant smile appeared on his increasingly handsome face. With a million angel army, sweeping the world was just around the corner. Who wouldn't be in a good mood?
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.